Hello, my name is Claudia Schwegmann. I'm the founder of OpenAid, and I'm happy to talk to the African Good Governance Network today. My professional interest is development aid. The aid system is well established and will not go away anytime soon. Therefore, I have a strong interest in making aid better for the benefit of the so-called beneficiaries. At the same time, I believe that aid does play a role in the socio-economic development and for the governance in African countries. What is the relationship between aid and governance? Well, there are many projects in Africa that aim to improve governance. At the same time, there are some indications that aid has a negative effect on governance. The reason for this is that aid often is not very accountable and may actually interfere with national accountability processes. Let us look at what is happening in the aid system. We have a large number of stakeholders who are in different geographic locations, who speak different languages, and who all have their own interests. In theory, donor and implementing agencies of aid should be accountable to citizens in the north, because they give the money. But donors and implementers should also be accountable to citizens in the south, because the whole aid system exists to improve their livelihood. Accountability happens by one stakeholder reporting upwards about the work done. The stakeholder receiving the report needs control mechanisms to verify that the report is actually correct. But because of the high number of stakeholders, the high number of projects, the geographic distances, language problems and administrative limits, this control is insufficient and will always be insufficient. There's always a risk that reporting is biased in the interest of the reporting organization. While the control and reporting mechanisms within the aid system is imperfect, control and reporting mechanisms involving citizens in the north and in the south are very weak and in many cases inexistent. The aid system does not favor good governance. In this system, the incentives are set for the pursuit of partisan interests, low efficiency, waste and corruption. This conclusion is supported by research on corruption within the aid sector and by the study results of Bräutigam and Knack on the negative correlation between foreign aid and governance. So what is the solution? How can aid become better and produce better results? And how can aid have a more positive impact on governance in recipient countries? There are strong arguments in favor of aid transparency to be a large part of the solution. The transparency of aid creates incentives for all stakeholders to work more in the interests of the citizens in the south. Since most people in the north really want aid money to fight poverty, the interests of citizens in the north are very similar to the interests of the so-called beneficiaries. By publishing more and better information on aid, the aid system becomes more accountable. Access to information also is the prerequisite for beneficiaries to give feedback and report to project management about shortcomings, inadequate policy and project impact. Citizens who experience strong accountability within projects may also demand more accountability in other public sectors. What do we mean by transparency? We mean numbers and documents, quantitative and qualitative information. Until now, the most important source of information was the database of the OECD Development Assistance Directorate, the creditor reporting system. But the shortcomings of the CRS are that data is not up to date, not forward-looking, not detailed at project level, not qualitative, and not machine-readable. Because donors recognize themselves the limits of the CRS, they promised more aid transparency in the Accra Agenda for Action at the High-Level Forum in 2008. To make this promise more real, donor countries created the International Aid Transparency Initiative at the High-Level Forum in Accra. The goal of IATI, the International Aid Transparency Initiative, is more efficiency, more accountability, and more impact and development cooperation. IATI contributes to these goals by the development of a standard for aid data and by the establishment of a data registry. Until now, the signatories of IATI are the European Commission, the World Bank, UNDP, the Asian Development Bank, Australia, New Zealand, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Denmark, Ireland, the UK, Germany, the Netherlands, Switzerland, Spain, the Global Fund, Gavi, and the private Hewlett Foundation. The potential users of the data are governments and partner countries who cannot do their budgeting on a national level if they don't have timely information on aid coming in. Also, other donors need better information to avoid duplication and coordinate aid efforts better. Parliaments, media, NGOs, and citizens need detailed and accessible data if they are to hold donors and implementers to account. Decisions in IATI are taken by a multi-stakeholder steering committee, including representatives from donors, partner countries, and civil society organizations. The civil society representatives are Publish What You Fund from the UK, Transparency International, the International Accountability Charter, and the International Budget Partnership. A technical advisory group prepares decisions and the Secretariat manages the overall IATI process. Imagine you are an NGO representative and wanted to monitor all the data that is coming into your country. You find some outdated and general data from some donors at the OECD creditor reporting system. After that, you can go to all the websites of donors operating in your country. Even if the data is standardized, you would have to visit many different websites and you may miss some donors. To facilitate access to aid data, IATI created a registry. The registry is not a database, but a list of links that is searchable. The links point back to the websites of the different donors. It offers RSS feeds so that users can get regular updates on new datasets. The registry is open to all kinds of aid. Bilateral, multilateral, NGOs, foundations, and even companies can report their information through the registry. What kind of data are we talking about? The IATI standard is a list of basic information about development projects. For each activity, the IATI standard requires information about the organization donating and implementing, as well as information related to the activity, such as sector codes, activity descriptions, and financial details. The IATI standard is based on the OECD DAC creditor reporting system, but expands it. For aid transparency to have a positive impact on aid effectiveness, the data provided has to be useful. Here are some criteria on how data should be published. IATI meets these criteria. Data has to be found easily and not hidden in obscure databases. Data should be accessible and easy to understand. Data needs to be up to date to be relevant. In the aid sector, it should even be forward-looking to improve predictability and budgeting. Data ought to be detailed and comparable. This is why a standard is necessary. Data ought to be open to reuse. This means that users are allowed to take the data and use it for their purposes at low costs or free of charge. Legal restrictions should be low. Data should also be technically open and machine-readable to facilitate reuse. You may wonder, isn't all this too expensive? In 2009, some researchers did a cost-benefit analysis of IATI on the basis of discussions with representatives of 4 donor headquarters and on a survey with donor country officers. According to this survey, the necessary investment for implementing IATI will be at most $8 million. By implementing IATI, donors will save about $7 million each year through improved information management. The estimated benefit from reduced corruption and improved budgeting at partner country level is about $1.6 billion each year. In this estimate, many other benefits are not yet taken into account. For example, the improved allocation of aid, the increased trust of citizens in development cooperation, and thus willingness to contribute, the empowerment of citizens to hold project management, donors and governments to account, and the reduced cost of research by NGOs and academics. I would like to conclude this presentation with a brief summary on how transparency relates to governance. Transparency in development cooperation can help donors and partner country governments do their job better. Up-to-date, forward-looking, detailed information on aid activities improves the aid allocation of donors and the budgeting at the national level. Standardized information management reduces administrative costs for donors and partner countries. Transparency in development cooperation can promote a culture of accountability, both in aid projects and in other areas of public service delivery. The visibility of aid flows reduces corruption and puts administrators under more pressure to deliver results. Experiences with open and transparent management in aid can encourage citizens to demand a similar culture of accountability in other areas. Donor agencies are often promoting the empowerment and participation of civil society. Access to information is a prerequisite to empowerment. Citizens cannot get involved in public affairs or provide feedback about service delivery if they don't have easy access to relevant information. Donors cannot be credible in the good governance activities if they don't practice a culture of openness and accountability themselves. Again, the example of good governance in the aid sector may have a stronger impact on good governance at the national level than elaborate projects to change partner country administrations. For some examples on how data can be used by citizens, please check out the second part of this presentation, which you will also find on YouTube. Thank you very much for watching this first part of the presentation. The second part of this presentation can be found under Claudia on Tube on YouTube. More information is available under www.openaid.de and on our OpenAid Facebook site. In addition, there is an aid transparency group on the social network LinkedIn. Other interesting websites are www.aidinfo.org, www.aidtransparency.net, www.aiddata.org, and www.publishwhatyoufund.org. Thank you very much for your interest.